Hello. Once again, this is Jeff Robertson with Penton Audio USA, and this is a video on how to connect and configure your PPM-AS microphone paging console to your IDA8 mass notification audio controller. We have other videos showing you how to plug in paging consoles and deploy them in the configuration, as well as how to set up the Pss-As console with the touchscreen. This is for the programmable PPM-AS as you see in the picture here on the screen. Okay, let's get started. Launching my Ateis studio, and as you can see down here in the bottom, I am connected to my demo unit, which has an IDA8C controller and a single IDA8S secondary or slave unit. So the first thing that we want to do is I will go to my devices tab, and over here in the menu tree you'll see remotes. I'll expand that tree and I will grab my PPM-AS remote. You do not have to worry about this little wire node that says number 1 on there, because if you use the same page console with some of the other DSPs, you actually have to route the wiring for the audio to an audio input. But on the IDA8 system, you do not have to do that, as in all the audio, the power, and the supervision is done via the connection to the PDC ports that you see here in green. All you have to do is wire the RS-485 serial node, which is the RS node right here, to the proper PDC port of whatever IDA8 unit that it's physically connected to. So I know mine is connected to PDC port number 2 on my IDA8 system. All right, now when you first plug in and wire a PPM-AS microphone station, you plug it into the included junction box. The field wiring goes from the IDA8C's PDC console ports and with a standard 4-pair Cat5e or Cat6 cabling to the junction box. The actual PPM-AS is a 5-pair shielded, about a 2-meter long patch cable that plugs into the junction box. If you've wired this correctly, even without you programming and configuring, the junction box's green power light should come on, and when you plug the PPM-AS into the junction box, its green power light should be on. But without it being programmed and configured, the yellow fault light should be flashing on the PPM-AS. And you can see here on these 2 pictures, that's exactly what it should look like before you actually program it. If you have no power lights, please review your wiring and connections to make sure that those are correct. Okay, I've installed this into the system, so I will first go here and compile and store. And I don't want to go online because I have to do some more programming. Okay, as you can see, it already picked up my PPM-AS. Once I did the compile and store, there's the serial number. It's actually on my IDA8C, which you see there, and it's on channel 2 in the first device, and there's my PDC port number 2. And to make sure that this is in there, I will go to my menu or system tree over here, and we will do a remote search. And there is my PPM-AS. Once I highlight that, I can click plug in, and it's all installed into the system ready to go. So as long as you see it here and you plugged it into your system, and now your fault light should have went from flashing to at least solid to say it's plugged in, but it's not linked to an event or programmed yet. Okay, so let's start programming. We will open up our control unit, and we will go to the DSP component network. And as we showed in other videos, anytime you have an RS-485 device that has audio, such as these paging consoles, you have to drag the PDC module into design. So when you do that, you have an input and an output, and we don't need the output because we're not sending audio to the speakers. And I am connected to number 2. So I will grab my B channel, and I'll just wire that to input number 1 on the network page controller. If I open this up, you'll see it's just like any other input module with volume controls, mute buttons. So now that I've connected that, we have to open up the network page controller, and here's where we set up our page and event and what the device is. I've already set up a paging source as a PPM-AS, so I'll just put that in there. And if you wanted to add it or change it, just go down here to the bottom left, and you can add or delete as many different sources. And remember, this is just information, just so you know what channel has what source or input device coming into it. This has nothing to do with the programming. First thing we need to go up here is go to activation for the page and info for this input. We will click on activation. As we do with any smart device, such as the fireman's microphone on the front, the Pss-As consoles, any VoIP modules, even the PPM-AS, make sure your activation mode is set to none. It is what we call a smart device or an intelligent device, to where it talks to the network page controller and you don't need to tell it the activation. It's already monitoring it and controlling the audio via the data signals. So we have to create an event for this, however. As anything that requires more information when the audio is activated, such as DTMF tones or buttons or dial codes, touchscreen control buttons that you would push, make sure you leave your paging event as integration. Singular, as we explained in other videos, is the audio comes in, such as a message or background music, and it always goes to the same zones or all zones or a particular zone all the time. It never looks for any information. The audio's there and it gets routed to the same zones all the time. We're on integration. We will click add. We will give this a name, and to make it easy, I'll just say PPM-AS page. And all we have to do is go to the little radio buttons here, and we will click on show. We will add our integration device. We have on the PPM-AS 8 buttons that's on my demo unit. You can have PPM keypads on there, and the unit would automatically see those keypad expanders the minute you did the plug-in and the remote search. And it would have the range right here, what's available at that PPM-AS station. You can have up to 256 buttons on a common PPM page station, but that would be one huge console. So I'm just going to say range for 1 to 8 because I've got 8 buttons, and we will hit OK. And the minute I do that, here are my 8 buttons where it says code 1 to 8. That's actually the keys top to bottom on my console. And I could give each one a priority for each zone. So if I have multiple consoles, I could have one console have a higher priority per zone or all zones than another console. Here are my IDA8C and my IDA8S units. So if I wanted to go in here and let's just say, here's my code 1, and I want my code 1 to go to zones 1 and 2 of the IDA8C. My second button, maybe I want it to go to zones 3 and 4 of the IDA8C. And we'll say the third button will go to zones 5 and 6. And the fourth one, 7 and 8. And that's on my IDA8C. I'm going to leave these other ones blank for now. And you notice that there's zones 1 through 16. And the reason we have zones 1 through 16 is that's how many possible outputs you have on the right-hand side of your network page controller. They're not the physical output zones of the unit. It's just the output nodes on the right-hand side of the network page controller. I will go to my IDA8S, and here's the 16 for my IDA8S, and we will start with button number 5, and I'll go to 2 zones with each button for the IDA8S. There we go. If I wanted to make them all the same priority number 1, or say if I want to make them all priority number 2, I could click all. And as you can see right here, it changes all the priorities. I could open this up, and I could even make the priorities visible. And so by every single zone, it's telling you the priority that we programmed for that zone. If I wanted to, I could just come here, and if I wanted to make that 1, then I could say my button 1 is priority 1 for zone 1 if you want. So you can have total flexibility with priorities. Okay, so we have completed that for now. And the only thing that's left to do after doing that will be to go back to my Devices tab. We need to link this PPM-AS to the page and event. Remember, we can have numerous PPM-AS consoles on a system, and each one can have its own event to make sure its buttons can go to certain groups of zones. So you can actually customize each PPM-AS to have access to what zones or combination of zones you want for that particular paging location. We have to link all of them to the right page and event. If they all are going to have the same button configuration and are all going to page the same zones or groups of zones, then you create one PPM-AS paging event like we just did now, and then you link them all to the exact same page event. So you double click the device, and as you will see right down here where it says event, we will click on this, and up here's where the event would be, and we'll highlight, and here's PPM-AS page event. You can see everything's already plugged. Any changes I make here will change the event. Any changes I make when I go to it via the network page controller like we did before will change it. And also, if I go up here to my View Event Manager and edit the event, like going right here, there's my PPM-AS. I can look at the content, and it's all going to be the same. So we can even look right there and see that's where I changed my 1 by itself. If I change this right here and I make this 3, and we close this out, there we go. But if I go back into my event from here, and I look back over here, as you can see, I'll make this visible. There's my 3. So it doesn't matter where you access this page event, no matter where you access it, it's going to make the change for all of them. There's a couple of settings in here you may want to know. One is the paging key release time. So when you actually decrease or release the keys, this is in seconds that it'll take to actually delay it. If you wanted a pre-announce, this is the preposition. This is a pre-announce tone. We can link this to your stored device. I will go to my audio files that I have in here, and here's the machine. And these are audio files that I have stored in my machine already, and I will grab my 3-tone chime, which is right there, and say OK. Also, talk mode. There is a push to talk or a talk button at the bottom. You can set that button up to be push to talk, so you have to hold it down to actually conduct your page, or you can have it for locking. So you push it down, make your page. If you have to read something, you need your hands, and then you push it again to release it. I will leave mine for push to talk for right now. The keys, leave it at 8 for now because that's what the system's already set up for. But as you can see, I could go all the way to 256 keys on a single paging station if I wanted to. If this has page stacking, this is the record time for the page stacking. I do not have it on my device. The AGC settings, do I want auto gain control, and then the target level. So I will leave this at -14 for now. We may have to come back and tweak this later, but this is where you set your gain control and the level that you want the audio to come out of your microphone. And remember, inside your IDA8C, we can also control the input levels right here on the controllers. I'll put this back to 0, do that. So once we've done this, we should be ready to compile, and we should be ready to store. We will turn on audio, and yes, we will go online. Okay, now that we have compiled and stored, our design console should just have a green steady light, and you should be ready to page your zones. Open up our outputs here on our IDA8C, and I will also go in here to my IDA8S, and we will put those over here. Okay, so I am going to push the first button, which should trigger zones 1 and 2. And I actually have a speaker connected to zone 1 here. You should actually hear that audio going through the system. So now I am going to push my very top button for zone 1. And we should see these 2 zones right here actually go active. And you'll probably hear the pre-alert chime as we set in there, 3 chime gong, and you will see the audio meters for these 2 zones light up. I am pushing the push to talk switch. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. And I release. There is an all call button on the PPM-AS, and I can dynamically select multiple zones. So if I chose the first button, the third, and the 5th button, like you see here on the picture, I'm actually paging those zones, which will be our first 2 zones, these first 2 zones, and these first 2 zones going active. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. I will do an all call just by pressing the all call button, which you see here in the picture, and you'll see all the buttons lit up on my PPM-AS, and I will make a page. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. And there you have it. It's that easy to set up the PPM-AS console. Thank you very much. And if you have any more questions, please visit us at penton-usa.com and have a terrific day.